presentation, but.
It's being recorded in case you want to share.
Hop on to the next slide, if you don't mind. So, yeah, 2.7 million acres nationwide. That is a pretty slow year, which is awesome. It's time for us to make progress on all these projects we have going on, whether at the governmental level, neighborhood level, whatever that might be. We could focus those efforts really well. It's the least acres burned since 1998, actually. Of note, almost half of that was on non-federal land, so private properties. I believe that includes some potentially city open space, HOA open space, stuff like that. So just a quick recap of fire anatomy real quick. For us wildland firefighters, we have fuels, weather, and topography that drives fire growth. And what can we affect out of that? Mostly the fuels side of things. With these mitigation projects, thinning efforts, prescribed fire, pile burning, stuff like that. Can't really change the topography. It's a geologic pace that it's only going to see a change based on where we are. And the weather, we're not affecting the weather. So the best we could do is be informed in how that's going to affect our fire behavior should we have to start. So we'll really look at fuels and weather. So is everyone familiar with the different fuel categories from 1 hour fuels to 1,000-hour fuels? Pretty much just a quick recap to make sense to everyone that the smaller sticks, smaller grasses are going to dry out much quicker than dead and down logs. 1 hour, 10-hour fuels, we'll see that fuel moisture change over the course of a day. As you transition to 100, 1,000, 10,000-hour fuels, that's the effects of seasonal drought before we get monsoons, effects of a strong or weak winter snowpack, and overall the seasonal curing throughout the summer. Any questions on that? So we look at weather that's reported from Grand Junction Weather Service here. But we also pulled data from remote access weather stations. This is the one out by Cito, Middle Mountain. It gives us some fuel moistures of live fuels, some dead fuels, and some weather observations, and that's updated every hour, I believe. So that data helps drive this calculator that Durango Interagency Dispatch runs and gives us this data for on a daily basis. We get predicted and observed indices. Some of the numbers we really look at are the ERC percentile and BI percentile. You can also see that throughout this forecast zone, we're looking at maximum temperatures, humidities, wind speed, as well as fuel moistures. So the ERC percentile, we look at that because it is the energy release, and that's BTUs per square foot at the head of a fire, that flaming front, based on fuel model Z for this forecast area. Different forecast areas look at different fuel models because that's the most representative of that area. Burning index, that is the difficulty of suppression. So it's expressed as a percentile because right now on May 2nd, we were in the 39th percentile. We're pretty low. We're seeing values that are below the median of that bell curve. So this observed indices May 2nd, ERC of 39, burning index of 61, not super concerning. Throughout the season, we'll see those jump up and up when we are at the, if you don't mind clicking to the next slide. Might be a little hard to read, but the 50th percentile, that's right in the middle of that bell curve of that average. In the 97th percentile value means 3% of those values have been observed. before. So pretty rare, pretty extreme burning conditions. Difficult suppression we might be looking at. So again, this is for fuel model Z in the upper forecast area for our dispatch zone. Most representative fuel type, and it's pulling data from all those ROD stations to build that calculator. Do you want to learn more about the indices and all that stuff? I'm sure Scott will try and make the next meeting, and he is much more well versed in that than I am. So that's stuff that we look at in a nutshell. This is just a quick map of all the different ROD stations with the little black triangles across the map. This is looking at an overlay with our 10-hour fuel moistures. So red being pretty low, 0 to 20%, I believe. And the lightest turquoise, we'll call that, is water. So just below that is that 100%, which we rarely see. That's almost a live fuel at that point. So again, this is same map, but looking at our 100-hour fuels. Again, taking a bit more time to acclimate to the current conditions. Overall, you could see that the Southwest is not in that nice green, dark green blue area. So it's drying up. Similar thing with 1,000-hour fuels. These are all indicators of potential drought and those conditions, those trends that we're keeping track of. So I'm actually really glad this is on here because I taught our refresher to some folks that just got on with our crew yesterday. And the drought map that I have was from March. And this drought development likely wasn't even there as of March. So the change from March to end of April, we're trending towards that potential drought. Just below us in New Mexico, you can see that drought persists. So even though there's that imaginary line that determines a lot, doesn't change how drought affects how we have to take care of fires should they start. So this is just a quick recap of where we were at last year in 2023 in the western slope of Colorado. Not really any drought this year. See it starting to creep in, D0, D1, depending on where you are within the southwest corner of Colorado. So this is might be a tough map to see, but this is the precipitation anomalies looking at a 30-year window from 1991 to 2023. So March 31st throughout that 30-day or 30-year window, sorry. This is trying to show the difference in our weather patterns. So at the end of March, somewhere normally we are aiming for that average 100%. Being in the brown, black here, you can see we're somewhere around that 50, 30, 70. We're below that 30-year average for rainfall. That's what this is trying to show. And just like that drought map, this is the snow water equivalent snowpack. When I gave that presentation to our crew, the data I had was from beginning of March, and we were at 102% snowpack. However, here we are at the end of April, we're already down to 73% in the Southwest, right around there. So it's melting quick. What that means is that runoff doesn't quite have time to soak in and bring that green up that we like to see. When we have nice green fuels, it tends to moderate fire behavior. So it's melting off really quick and just filling lakes, reservoirs. It's good, but it doesn't quite have time to soak in, feed the vegetation. Some El Nino, La Nina. I don't know if you guys have done any research on this, but some of the most mind-boggling stuff. So if anyone knows any more about this, I'm all ears. Overall, it's looking like we're trending towards a La Nina winter. I've read a bunch of different things of what this means. It can mean a warmer, wetter winter for us in the Southwest. It could mean a warmer, drier. It's just the weather anomalies, weather trends that a bunch of really smart people have developed and dubbed it La Nina. So in a nutshell, we'll see what actually occurs, but that La Nina weather pattern is the cooling of the Pacific Ocean and the potential impacts on our weather here in the Southwest. So this is some other products from National Weather Service looking at a national level. Pardon me, national level. I've been talking all day. So in the Southwest here, it's looking like it's going to be above normal. Don't quite know what the time frame is on that map. Everything else I've seen is trending towards a warmer, drier summer overall. So yeah, we're below our expected average precipitation rates and we're above our average temperatures. That's the potential, and that partly tied into the La Nina weather pattern. So this is another predictive services tool we look at, especially on the fire crew. Red is above normal fire potential, white is average, neutral, status quo, green is below average. So green being really strong winter, really good monsoon flows, stuff like that. Red indicating extended drought conditions, weak winter, snowpack. Maybe the weather trends aren't indicating that we'll have a strong monsoon. So in the Southwest, we are similar to many of those other maps. We're right above New Mexico's, looking above normal fire potential in July. Now, this doesn't take into account actual starts. It's just saying if there is a start, we could be faced with the more challenging suppression efforts. This does update every month. So at the end of the month here, we'll get a new outlook for June, July, August, and September. They try to be about 4 months ahead. So quick rundown, 911 is the best way to get a hold of emergency services. There's brush fire, wildfire, anything like that. Get some folks rolling. We'll figure out who's dealing with it, meaning pretty much who's paid for it on the back end. If it's on private land, federal land, anything like that, we're here to help. That's what we do. So one awesome thing about our collaboration with a ton of folks, ton of agencies in the zone is there is a mutual aid agreement countywide with Forest Service, BLM. Don't have any parks locally. Out towards Mesa Verde, I know they do. I can't quite speak on the relationship with folks out there, but locally here in the Durango area, we work with our federal partners and neighboring fire districts a ton. We're all there for the same goal. So years past, mutual aid agreements of time, distance, stuff like that. This year, they're looking at, hey, we're gonna do the right thing, help each other out, figure it out on the back end, make sure everyone's good. So some other important and valuable phone numbers, non-emergency dispatch. This could be anything fire, PD related, medical. If it's true emergency, again, call 911, but if it's kind of some vague information that you might have and want to share and just let it be known, non-emergency is a great way to share that information. Interagency dispatch phone number, that's fires on federal lands. Even if you call 911 non-emergent dispatch, we'll be the first to go. And if it is on federal land, we'll share that information with our federal partners and make sure that's taken care of appropriately. So if you don't mind jumping to the next slide. If you are giving a size up, one more click. There we go. Some helpful information for first responders are the location, where are you at? If you don't have GPS coordinates, that's totally fine. If you have a mile marker of a road, intersections of roads, a known subdivision, something like that. Just so we could get in the general area. And if you're good with your directions and you can say, yeah, I'm looking east of 550. This was taken from the top of Shalona Hill, if you're familiar with that area. This is a single tree lightning strike. Color of smoke tells us a lot. It's similar to this white, puffy, kind of lazy smoke. That could be a burn pile, a single tree, lightning strike. Tells us that there's not a ton of active fire behavior. If you see dark gray, black, really charged smoke, something's burning with great intensity and it might be moving quick, and we'd like to know that. If you can see flames, that helps paint the picture to us so we know what we might be getting into and drive our tactical decisions. Proximity to homes, that is huge. If we hear that and you see flames burning hot, before we even get there, we're going to start calling for the world, because as firefighters, that's our job, to protect lives. So it's close to homes. We want to be sure that we can mitigate that as best as we can. Some other valuable information is if you lose cell service or you gotta keep going wherever you're going, to give a callback number and name. I can't tell you how many times I've been to smoke reports from somebody just driving and they don't leave their information with either dispatch. It's like, oh, where were they looking? Where did they see that? And it could be timely to track that down. Sometimes we really need that. And we might try calling back a few times to get a better idea of what you're seeing, what you're calling in. So if we have a large incident that goes through chain of command from the local to the regional level, it's gonna go through likely 911 communication center, and folks on the ground will talk with our interagency dispatch, get our mutual aid agreements going, get those folks coming to help. And then should we need anything more, that pulls from the Rocky Mountain region. And that office is in Lakewood, Colorado. So interagency dispatch will call them with a list of stuff we're asking for, whether that's crews, engines, equipment, aircraft, whatever that might be. They'll try to fill that at that level. If we are in a busy fire season and there are a ton of resources committed, and we don't have a lot of stuff available in the Rocky Mountain area, they'll bump that up to the next level of the dispatch chain of command, essentially, and that's in Boise, Idaho, and they'll put out the national request. So that's where sometimes, I'm sure anyone who's around for the 416 saw a lot of resources from all over the place. They got that resource order and they might be coming from the East Coast somewhere. They might be coming from the West Coast somewhere. That's because those areas are not experiencing such high fire danger, and they could send those resources to come help. On the flip side of that, when we have a slower fire season here, we offer up those resources. So we go out and help folks in areas that are experiencing higher fire danger. Getting on to the mitigation stuff that we're doing, our bread and butter, keeps us busy when there's no fires. Still working with the wind grant, the co-swap grant. I'm not the most well-versed in that, I'll be the first to admit. Scott and Lauren Russell are the better liaisons for that. We are still working on mitigation in the Edgemont open space areas to do some pile burning. We are working on city open space areas to do some more pile burning. We've got over 600 piles burned this past winter that we just got out of. That was a huge success. We found that having several smaller project areas on different aspects aided us in being able to burn, because some needed a ton of snow and some needed very little snow to safely get that taken care of. So depending on the winter, we could still get something done. Overall, we're looking at 100 acres. Oh, we've got 100 acres treated. Sorry, we're also looking at another 100 acres for 2024 to take care of as the Durango wildfire crew. Just some other things to have in the back of your mind for some challenges we face. We've been dealing with it for a few years on our crew, is housing, cost of housing. And we're not special by any means. A lot of areas are trying to get seasonal folks to come into an area with a high cost of living. And that's been a barrier to recruitment for us. The sustainability of the federal system and the fire department system, there's a ebb and flow that goes back and forth. Just with recruitment, retention, the overall program, I'm sure you guys have seen in the news, the feds have their plate full right now. Luckily, right now, we're on the other side of that. We are fully staffed, we're strong, we got a ton of great people. So over the years, that balance shifts back and forth. Firefighter burnout and mental health. That's been something that's being talked about a lot more, because that is also trickle down of some of the other things like housing and that balance between the feds and local departments being a lot more vocal, having resources available. It's affected people in the past. We don't want to see a new generation of folks affected by burnout, PTSD, things of that nature. So there are more resources, but it's still a challenging job. It's being referred to now as fire years instead of fire seasons. And I'll also admit, when we're still out in November, when I like to be home with my family, it could drag. So that's another challenge we're facing. Place of belonging. We've been very fortunate, even though with our high cost of living, people want to be in Durango. It's a cool spot. So we've used that to leverage folks, build some roots, settle down, trying to build the long-term career option for folks instead of just a seasonal run that we work you to the bone for a few months and then you're off. So trying to build that balance for folks as well is super important to us. These are some great resources where Scott pulled all this information from. The NIFC, Interagency Fire Center, they have a lot of those predictive services on there. Rocky Mountain Coordination Center has a lot of stuff for our region where we are. And the Forest Service Wildfire Assessment System. I've only dabbled in that. It's a really cool tool. A lot of great information. If you got some downtime, I highly recommend checking out that wildfire assessment system. That's all I got. Anyone have any questions?
Oh, yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
Kind of Sort of off topic, but getting back to your burnout and mental health situation amongst the firefighters. Are you seeing any relief with the homeless in Durango? Since Purple Cliffs is shut down?
I don't really know. Our station is up in the valley, so we don't really encounter that a whole lot. I do work on shifts in the winter, so see some of that. I don't have a great answer for you.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's been something I've noticed that we don't have to go on as many calls. That's about what I've noticed so far. Whether that's good or bad, I don't.
You mentioned Dolores as the fire going
Yeah, the Spruce Creek fire. So that was actually a single tree lightning strike that was within a already prepared prescribed fire unit. So conditions are ideal right now to bring natural fire back to the landscape. Plenty of resources to manage that safely and effectively. So they're taking that single tree, and last I read, they're looking at about a 4,000 acre unit. So there was also, I believe, 2 other fires last season locally, one in the Dolores district and one in the Columbine district that had a single tree lightning strike in a unit, and conditions were ideal, plenty of resources, and reintroduced fire to the landscape.
Any other questions for Joe? All right, well, let's give it up. Yeah, thanks for coming out.
Yeah, for sure.
Appreciate it.
I hope Scott could make the next one. I'm unfortunately gonna have to get going because like I said, still on duty.
Yeah, fair enough.
Thanks for having me, everyone.
Appreciate you coming out.
Yeah.
Stay safe this evening.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Come grab.
Did you take a copy of it? Is it on your computer? Is it in here?
I could email it to you if that works.
Yeah, you
Sure.
can email.
Yeah, that's great.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good
man.
evening.
So we can have that so that we can. look
Yeah,
out for longer.
if we can get that by tomorrow, we're gonna send out the e-news, so we'll do the recording.
Yeah. Yep. Do we have time for Bill to go on?
Yeah, I think so,
Okay.
if we can get this up. Otherwise, we're just gonna have to listen to you, Bill. It's,
Yeah, we've been having some technical difficulties
I think
tonight.
the lamp went,
Uh-oh.
it's like, I know. I don't know how old that thing is. Okay, I will keep working on this. Bill.
Can you
we're
guys hear
gonna-
me though?
Yeah, we can hear you.
We got audio?
Yes,
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I guess we'll just go with that and, well, thanks, everybody. It was a real good presentation from Joe. I guess he's already left, but, good job on that. It's good to hear, what we're gonna be looking at and how things work that way. For those who don't know me, I'm Bill Trimarco. I'm the Wildfire Adaptive Partnership Coordinator over in Archuleta County. So not too often I can make it over to these meetings on Tuesday nights. So it's good to be here tonight. I thought we'd talk a little bit about insurance. Because I'm getting more questions about insurance. My wife's an insurance agent. I'm watching her pull her hair out, trying to get people policies in this day and age. The industry has changed a lot in the last few years. And as ambassadors and mitigation specialists, I think most of the people in the room and online here, we're practitioners in some way with wildfire stuff here. So we do hear about these questions. And I think it's good to know, to have a little more knowledge about insurance, what role they play, what roles we play, and how we interact with them. So first thing I usually think of is what is the role of an insurance company? And we need to remember that they are a for-profit business. They charge premiums, they make a profit off them. Those profits are what they use to pay out claims. So basically they exist to insure against various risks. Where we deal with them the most around here is homeowners insurance. And basically the situation there has changed a lot. On December 28th, 2022, the middle of winter, in a low wildfire risk area in the Front Range of Colorado, we lost 1,000 homes in just a little over 24 hours. That really woke the insurance companies up. This was the Marshall Fire. I think a lot of you probably remember it. Louisville and I just forgot the other one. Yeah, Superior in Louisville. Basically, that was a wildfire that got into an urban area and with 70-mile-an-hour winds just wreaked havoc. The insurance companies had tremendous losses there. And basically in 2022, the insurance companies out west here lost about 7%. And it's important to know this, because the way they pay premiums is off their profits. Well, they did not have profits that year. The way that they insure themselves against losses like that, every insurance company has to get reinsured. And basically, they don't have an insurance company they can go to for that. It's large investment firms that will invest in the insurance companies and they will cover them if their losses are more than their premiums. The problem we have is when you have a few years of insurance companies losing money, it's, well, I think a lot of you here probably have some kind of savings account. Who would be interested in one that you get told right off the bat, you're going to lose 7% on this every year? it's not a good investment. So right now, the insurance companies can't get reinsured out west. We're seeing that in the kind of premiums that they're charging, the rate increases in the areas that they don't want to cover. So basically, all these things are outside of our control. And it's kind of good to remember that of if that's their role is to insure us, and they are going to do it either by charging high premiums or getting reinsurance, what's our role? And that kind of comes down to we are risk managers. We're not going to make fire go away, but we have all the best tools and science to know how to protect our homes and our property. And this is all of you who've been through the ambassador course have gotten a lot of information on that. Your coordinators know a lot more. And basically, we know how to protect homes. We don't know how to help people get insurance. This is where the issues come in of our interaction with the insurance companies. We're not insurance brokers. The underwriters and the brokers, they're the ones who determine whether or not somebody can get coverage. And a lot of people are under the misconception that their agent can really help them out with an underwriter. Well, all I can say is good luck with that. Individual agents are doing everything they can to help you, but they really don't have any control over the underwriters. That's who they go to get those policies for you. So it's good to, be aware of that. So, basically, as practitioners, as people who are spreading the word about wildfire preparedness and that, we really can't affect the insurance companies, and we really can't affect people's abilities to get insurance. And I'm sure a lot of you, as being neighborhood ambassadors, you get questions from your neighbors and people in your community. And there are some things we can do, but we can't get people insurance. It's beyond us. And even agents have a hard time, especially now. After that Marshall Fire, insurance companies tend to have knee-jerk reactions to large events. And the first thing they're going to do is try and protect their business. They want to pay the claims that they've got and then not suffer any more losses. So I think it's kind of good to look at, if we know that they are losing money, it kind of gives you a little different perspective when we're looking at what we're going through here with these increased premiums and how much harder it is to get insurance. And I think if you want to see where things are headed in Colorado, look to California. Allstate and State Farm have both pulled out of California altogether. They will not issue any new policies there. They've lost too much money. They're leaving it alone for a while until things look better to them. The rumors I'm hearing is that Colorado may not be far behind California that way. I do know right now that even some homes that Allstate they've bound a policy for them, and then 2 months later they come out and do an inspection and they cancel the policy. This has been happening to people. State Farm for many years in our area, they had certain areas they would not issue policies. Last year, they were writing policies for places that other insurance companies wouldn't handle. This year, they're getting strict again. There's an ebb and flow to this that the people who are deciding where they're going to insure homes and all that, it's way beyond us. This is happening by people who are running spreadsheets on computers and working with algorithms. I think they all live in little basement cubicles in New Jersey someplace, but they're not out in the real world here. So it's just good to know that that's the situation. So then it comes down to, well, what can we do about it? And I think the main thing there is to remember what our role is. We know how to protect lives and property. We have the science behind it for that. We know what works for that. We know how to create defensible space. We are constantly trying to build fire adapted communities in our own neighborhoods and in the bigger overall community. And I think it's best if we put our energies there. What we can do insurance wise is, to make sure when people are asking questions, the big things that I keep telling them to do is make sure you have adequate insurance. They're not insuring your land, they're insuring your home. If all the trees burn on your property, you're not gonna get any money for that. They will replace your home. So make sure that you have insurance coverage that will cover replacement of that home. And if you've looked at the, the cost per square foot for building in our area anymore, it has gone up tremendously in the last 2 years. You may be underinsured. You don't want to find that out if an accident happens. The other thing that's important to do is have a list of all your personal belongings and possessions. If you lose your home, you're probably not going to remember everything that's in it. A lot of people just walk around with their cell phone and take a video of everything that's in there. You especially want to list if you have any, jewelry, guns, musical instruments, things like that, that would be worth more than the average. You want to have listings of that, and it's best if you have a picture of it. You'll know what you've lost when you're dealing with things afterwards. And the other, really, probably the best advice I can give anybody on homeowners insurance right now is if you have insurance, do everything you can to keep it. If you don't like the premiums, shop around and see what else is available out there. But I hear so many people come and tell me, I took care of them. I fired Allstate. They're not going to handle my insurance anymore. Well, then they can't get insurance later. So don't get rid of a policy until you know you have something else to go to. People are having a lot of trouble. Renewal time and new policies is when you're really going to run into issues. And if you are shopping for a new policy, get your home in order first. If somebody's going to come out and look at it, you want that defensible space around your house. You want to look good when they come out. You will stand a better chance of getting insurance. And right now, it's not a question of, will you pay more for insurance, or can you get a cheaper one, or can you get a discount if you've mitigated. It's more a question of you will get insured or you will not get insured. And I'm hearing about more and more policies in our corner of the state here where the only insurance people can get has a wildfire exclusion. It will cover everything except wildfire. And some of them I've heard of, to get the wildfire insurance, they've been paying $40,000 a year just for that policy. This would be on about a $1.5 million home. So these are things to keep in mind. If you have insurance, do what you can to keep it. If you're going to shop, you should also be aware that there are captive agents and independent agents. Captive agents can only handle one particular product. State Farm has captive agents. Farm Bureau is captive agents. American Family is captive. They can only offer their product. Independent agents can shop around. They can offer basically everything other than the captive policies. So Geico, Progressive, all the ones you see advertised on TV, they can handle them. And if you're shopping for insurance, I would highly recommend, if you go to an independent agent, don't go to 3 or 4 or 5 of them and have them all looking for insurance for you. Because most of the independent agents deal with the same companies. So they are going to be going to the same ones. And sometimes if an underwriter gets a request from the same address from 5 different places for insurance, it puts up their red flags of what's going on there. Why is there a problem? You don't want red flags when you're looking for insurance. If you want to go to one or two independent agents, that's fine. If you go to more than one, I would tell the second one that you've already got somebody checking so that they don't go to the same companies for you. It will be in your best interest. That's pretty much all I know about insurance right now. The one other thing is, Colorado will have the FAIR plan coming out in 2025. This will be wildfire insurance for people who can't get insurance through normal companies. It will be expensive, and it will be for wildfire insurance only. You still will have to get another policy to cover frozen pipes and roof damage and things like that. But it probably will be happening in 2025. And the other thing that Colorado is working on is building codes in the wildland urban interface. Most people freak out when they hear more building codes for that, but basically, we have been building homes in the interface and not doing the right things, and we can't get them insured. The state's going to end up mandating it. It's what they did in cities a couple generations ago to stop the structure fires in cities that used to took out Chicago, San Francisco, all those back in the early 1900s and late 1800s. It's probably coming for here. If you get your D-space around your home, you'll be ahead of the curve. That's all I got. We got a couple minutes for questions, if anybody has them.
Just for the handouts for people in the room, this is from a combination of partners, Colorado State Forest Service and the Colorado Association of Realtors, kind of insurance in this area. It's been updated recently, but we have more copies if you wanted to give any to your neighbor, just let us know. I have a few here, but we have a lot in the office too, so anyone can come by and get those. Any questions in the room?
No, just thanks, Bill. It was informative.
Looks like
Allison.
Allison.
I'm getting my video on too. That was so amazing. Thank you. Is there an echo?
Everybody,
Sorry.
if you look in the April e-news, there is a link to Fire Adapted Colorado did a little webinar, a 1-hour webinar on this. Most of the information I gave you is on there. I was one of the presenters. Plus, there was a couple other people who were involved in the industry too. So if you want to hear a little bit more, they can fill in some more details there. There's a link right in the e-news.
Okay, thanks. I actually wanted to add something that is often overlooked. After a wildfire, if it impacted your property, I don't know if it's your whole neighborhood or your property specific, you're not eligible to get flood insurance at that point. But unfortunately, what happens after a fire is flood. So for folks on slopes, that's something to keep in mind, because you wouldn't have the opportunity after the fire to try and protect your home through that insurance.
It's a good point, Allison. And the other thing with insurance to remember is usually if there's a wildfire burning in your area, and it varies with different insurance companies as to what they consider the area, how close it has to be, they usually stop binding any new policies. So, I wouldn't be waiting until the 4th of July. If you're thinking about changing policies, you might not be able to get anybody to sign you on if we have any fires going. So be proactive, go early.
Any other questions in the room? Online?
All right.
Great, yeah.
Thanks, Bill. Really appreciate
you.
you talking tonight. That was super good info on insurance. All right, I think at this point, we're gonna do a quick round, minute or two updates per person. If you participated in Wildfire Community Preparedness Day, what did you do? Any other updates from your communities? And if you don't have updates, maybe just say 1 or 2 things that you got out of either Bill's presentation or Joe's presentation. So we can go ahead and start in the room. You wanna go, Mark?
Yeah. Mark Lovell, Colorado State Forest Service, was the supervisor up the